Welcome back to the Celtics Nation Rise account. I'm Griffin Aldridge, and we have some breaking news. The Boston Celtics have signed Josh Minott to a 2-year, $5 million deal. And let's get this tweet queued up for you guys immediately, as this is some breaking news signing 22-year-old Josh Minott. So, as you see right here, via Sean Sharania, free agent forward Josh Minott has agreed to a 2-year, $5 million deal with the Boston Celtics, sources tell ESPN. Celtics executives finalized the new deal with Minott's agent, Aaron Turner of Varus. I think you say it, Varus. I may have said that right, but as you see right there, Josh Minott has officially signed a 2-year, $5 million deal with the Boston Celtics, bringing him into Beantown. So, as you guys have seen, yesterday the Boston Celtics signed Luka Garza to a 2-year, $5.5 million deal. Now, adding Josh Minott, Luka Garza's teammate, onto that list. And as you can see right here, Josh Minott actually did post this on his story. As you can see, 20 hours ago, probably was like 23 hours ago now. Obviously, you see him posting the breaking news of Luka Garza and tagging him down below. Well, later would he know he would become a Boston Celtics too. As you see right here, this was right before the news dropped. As you see him with that kind of face, hey, look, I know some news. And then later, obviously, announced to coming to the Boston Celtics. So you see this move, you see this deal go down, and I was not pleased at first. Obviously, this deal is filling now the 15th roster spot. And I said it earlier, well, Seamus and everyone said it earlier. You see this deal being done, and the Boston Celtics like to keep open a roster spot. However, now being the 15th roster spot, do the Celtics move on from someone? I believe so. I believe there's a lot of deals that are yet to come. Obviously, it's early in free agency, and a lot of people aren't going to be pleased by Josh Minott coming to the Boston Celtics. I am one of those people. I did not like this deal at first. However, I opened up to the deal because you look at him, he's 22 years old, and I don't think this is going to be a guy who is going to be at the front part of your rotation. Obviously, coming off the bench, he's going to be more so that 15th man. Obviously, Luka Garza, who you saw Josh Minott posting about his former teammate, obviously he's going to get more of a role because the center depth is so thin for the Celtics. Obviously, you see that right now it's Xavier Tillman, Namias Queta, obviously Luka Garza, and Amari Williams, newly drafted from the 46th pick from the Boston Celtics. So obviously, you're going to see Luka Garza get more time. Both of these guys are not very experienced. They've had limited time. However, Josh Minott is a player that needs to prove himself more. Obviously, same with Luka Garza because he's a guy who hasn't had a lot of time. Obviously, getting drafted by the Pistons and playing in their G League and then playing for the Iowa Wolves and the Timberwolves team, but hasn't got a lot of time. The same boat that Josh Minott is in. He's a player who hasn't got a lot of time. As you see right here, the Boston Celtics games played last season was 46, and he averaged 6 minutes a game, shot 48.9% from the field goal, 32.6% from three-point, and then obviously one rebound per game, 0.4 assists per game, 0.3 blocks per game, 0.3 steals per game, and average 2.6 points per game. And then obviously in his NBA career has only played 93 games. So a small sample size from Josh Minott, and this is what makes it so promising. Him coming into Boston, the Boston Celtics are very good with developing players. And Josh Minott is a player with a year that you're obviously awaiting Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum is going to be injured this season, and this season is more so a development year for the Boston Celtics. You could see them developing guys like Luka Garza and Josh Minott. And this is a great situation for Josh Minott to be in, as the Boston Celtics are very familiar with developing guys, like as in Luke Cornett, who came to the team. No one thought he was going to be a lot, and they developed him into a stud who now just signed a 4-year, $41 million deal with the San Antonio Spurs. So Josh Minott is this type of player. Obviously, getting the minimum. There's not a big risk there. You could bring him in, kind of develop him, see what's the future for Josh Minott. Could he potentially be a key piece when Jason Tatum comes back and be a good bench piece? Possibly. There's so many options with Josh Minott. And this is a great year to kind of test with him and make him that vital bench piece that everyone needs. I kind of said, all right, he kind of gives me Carson Edwards vibes. But I feel like Josh Minott is a player that can kind of grow and become a valuable, not vital, yeah, I guess vital, valuable bench piece on a team like this. And this is a team where the Boston Celtics are trying to revamp their team for when Jason Tatum comes back and kind of, retool in order to win a championship. And if you could develop Josh Minott and Luka Garza this year and develop them into being key roles on the Celtics for their bench, because you look at it, Baylor Shireman, another guy you could get some time on the bench. JD Davison hasn't had a lot to prove, and he could prove it all on the bench this year. This is a year where and I've mentioned this, it's kind of like, the Tristan Thompson era with the Celtics. It's you had guys who you kind of brought in and you kind of built the roster for the future in order to succeed and win Banner 18. So you look at that and you see that kind of. Josh Minott, though, is a player, like, again, I'm going to say this. You had Sam Hauser, Namias Queta even being one of those guys. Baylor Shireman, obviously, we haven't had a lot of sample size from him, but Peyton Pritchard and all of those guys, Grant Williams, the Boston Celtics did such a great job developing them, and Josh Minott could be next up on that list for the Boston Celtics. So I just look at this for just success for Josh Minott. You look at this could be a year where he could prove it and really become a valuable piece on a championship winning team. Again, we are retooling for the Celtics to be competitive once Jason Tatum comes back. And I also look at this too. It's like he's young, 22 years old. You look at that age, and compared to Luka Garza, who is 26, going to be 27, so is in the mix of his prime. And you have Josh Minott, who is so young and has so much time to develop and become into this great player. And the future looks bright for him. The future looks bright for Josh Minott in Boston. And this is a guy where you could kind of go all in on, really work on developing him and making him that player and shaping him to be the player you want on a bench. Again, I see him being like the 15th man on the roster. I don't see him putting in a lot more time as in Luka Garza is going to get, because I feel like Luka Garza, obviously with the center depth being so thin, Luka Garza is going to get a lot more time for the Boston Celtics. However, again, in a year where you're retooling and kind of a development year for the Boston Celtics, Josh Minott could get a lot of time, at least a lot more time than I'm saying right now, too. JD Davison being another guy. You're going to see the Boston Celtics really work on developing these players because, again, Anthony Simons might be a guy where his time in Boston isn't so long, too. So you kind of look at this and you're like, all right, well, Josh Minott could get a lot of time and really develop into a good player. However, I was not big on this deal at first. I did not like it, and I've kind of turned the corner on Josh Minott. I'm not like, wow, this was a big move and it like blew me out of the water, but I'm like, all right, we obviously see what Brad Stevens is doing now. He's going to retool, and however, this is not it yet. Obviously Brad Stevens has a lot more moves up his sleeve. This is only the second day of free agency, so there's still so much time left. So don't think that this is going to be the Celtics roster. Josh Minott, I'm guessing, is going to be a player on this roster, obviously signing him for the minimum. So this isn't going to be a player that we're going to move off of. Maybe at trade deadline, maybe he could do something and build up some trade value, and we could get move off of him at trade deadline, if he builds up some value, who knows what the ceiling is with Josh Minott. But however, as of right now, Brad Stevens, again, is 2-3 steps ahead of us. He knows what he's building up for the roster. And this is a young guy you could bring in and really develop. And I'm big on Luka Garza. I think he's a guy who they could really develop and turn him into a stud as well. But Josh Minott is, again, one of those young players who, again, 22 years old, going to be 23. He's a player where you kind of look at and be like, all right, there's something there. There's something there in Josh Minott. And as for the Boston Celtics, I know I sound like I'm just going in circles, but this year again with JD Davison, he hasn't got a lot of run in the NBA as well, having a lot of time in the G League, getting experience down there. JD Davison has a time to prove himself that he could be a player that could be a valuable piece on the bench too for the Boston Celtics. So there's a lot of guys that could really show their talents, being Nemias Queta, JD Davison, Luka Garza, Josh Minott, obviously Ugo Gonzalez. I know it's Ugo. It's not Hugo. It's Ugo. Ugo Gonzalez. Maybe Amari Williams, potentially, obviously signing a 2-way contract, but he could be another guy. I don't think Max Shulga will be that guy. I feel like he's going to be more of an Anton Watson type guy where you kind of stick him in the G League and try to develop him there. I don't think he'll get a lot of run with the Celtics, but Josh Minott is a guy who, it's not a 2-way contract. It's a full contract for 2 years, $5 million. And obviously being the minimum, kind of questionable where you'll go there. Obviously this fills up the 15th roster spot. So who knows? Could we still get Al Horford? I'm not sure, but I feel, again, there's going to be more moves. The Celtics are far from over from doing moves. You're going to see them have a lot more, but this is a guy who I wasn't high on at first. I'm kind of turning the door on Josh Minott because you look at him, he is a guy who can contribute, and I wouldn't mind him being the 15th person off the bench. I really wouldn't mind that. I would say for more so Josh Minott, he's going to get that time more so that Jordan Walsh got last year, but I feel like he'll have more opportunities because, again, this is going to be a year where the Boston Celtics are developing. So welcome to Boston, Josh Minott, and it is going to be interesting to see what holds the future for Josh Minott. But with that being said, that is going to do it for the podcast. Not the podcast, the video today. So thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe and turn on post notifications to be notified every time we upload, because we will be bringing you breaking news like this. So make sure to like and subscribe, and we will see you guys with the next one. Peace, guys.